Hi, it's Daphne here, and I am a narcissistic abuse survivor, sharing my story to bring awareness to narcissistic abuse and toxic people. Now, there are 3 stages to the narcissistic relationship cycle. I've already covered the love bombing stage and the devaluing stage. So in this video, I will be sharing with you the discard stage. So stay tuned to hear about it. Welcome and thank you for joining me. I want to start off by saying thank you to my subscribers for supporting me through my story journey. Thanks for the views, thanks for the likes, thanks for the comments. It really means a lot to me. Okay, so as I stated that there are 3 stages to the narcissistic relationship cycle. I've already covered the love bombing stage and the devaluing stage. Go ahead and check out those videos if you haven't already. Okay, so the first stage, the love bombing stage, that is where my narcissistic ex, he love bombed me, and my abuser, he went over the top to make me feel special, and he groomed me to be addicted to this fairy tale romance that he had created. And once he felt like he had me where he wanted me, then the love bombing gradually faded away, and that's when stage 2 comes into play, the devaluing stage. And in my case, it started early in the beginning, but I wasn't aware of it, okay? So the devaluing stage, that is when my abuser's mask started to slip off, okay? And he started to be his real self. No more Prince Charming, and he became controlling, and the relationship was all about him at that time. Mind games and disappearing acts, lack of empathy, silent treatment, which is among some of the things that or some of the ways they devalued me. Okay, now the discard stage, the third and final stage of the narcissistic relationship cycle, or as I like to say, the set me free stage, or the him getting out of my life stage. Okay, but it happened when I was no longer a good supply source. Okay, and now the discard itself, it happened suddenly, but it was after a premeditated, long and drawn out evil plan that involved future faking and a lot of cheating. Now remember, he was involved with this other woman for at least 2 years before the actual discard. But because narcissists, they need a constant supply source. And instead of him getting out of my life when he found a new supply source, he decided that he was going to have us both. Okay. Now, I don't know what triggers the discard stage, but I'm going to tell you about some things that were going on around the time he sought out a new supply source that could have possibly been triggers. Okay. So remember, I told you how he was always complaining about something? Well, one day I just was tired of the complaining. So I called him out on his manhood, okay? I had to let him know that I could be complaining about some things too. So I'm sure that bruised his ego, which could have been a trigger, okay? And number 2, I was tired of the relationship being all about him. So I started to rebel and demanded that my needs be met also. And I started calling him out on his erratic behavior, telling him how his actions didn't match up with his words and how different he was from the person that I had met in the beginning. Okay. Now, another trigger would have been probably because he could no longer control me the way that he wanted to. He was always trying to control my life and tell me what I should do and how to handle certain situations. But I refused to let him dictate my life. Now, see, narcissists, they have to be in control, admired, and validated. And he was no longer getting that from me. And I started to see behind that mask and was realizing that the relationship had become one-sided and double standards also. And I wasn't happy with that. And I let him know. Okay, so whatever the trigger was to that triggered the discard stage, it really doesn't matter because there's no excuse for lying, cheating, manipulating, or deceiving someone. So anyway, my abuser, what he did, he threw a temper tantrum just like a child does when they can't have their way. And instead of my abuser being a man about it, he chose to be a man ho about it, okay? By stepping outside the relationship and finding a new supply source, and then going back and forth between the both of us. Now, over time, I realized that the person that I had met in the beginning did not exist. Okay, he was acting. So I got to the point where I was just tired of being the only one trying and tired of chasing that fantasy that he created. I mean, I was really mentally exhausted. Okay, so I started to back away. I didn't go to his place as much, and my whole response to him was just different. And his behavior was just sickening sometimes. I just didn't even want to be around him. Okay, and that change did not go unnoticed though. So when he didn't hear from me, he would send me texts like, "Hey, you coming over tonight?" Or "Meet me for dinner." And he would give me a time and place where to meet him. And then he would text me that he was on his way home from work and asking me to meet him at his place and what I wanted for dinner. Okay, so I guess that's called hovering in the narcissistic relationship. Okay, and this was also around the time when he had professed his love for me and told me that how amazing I was and that there was a reason why we were in each other's lives. Okay, so I thought that he was making an effort to do better, but he wasn't. He was really, he was already involved with this other woman by this time. It was just a manipulation tactic just to keep me hanging on because he was not done with me yet. Okay. And if he had let me slip away at that time, his plan to destroy me would have failed. So, for the second time, he put his mask on and became who he needed to be to keep me hanging around and to be in control while he carried out his evil plan. Yeah. So he knew what I wanted and he was doing all of that, showing affection and cooking me breakfast before work and having dinner ready when I got off work and ironing my clothes for the next day, attending family functions with me, even though he was faking the funk in front of them. Okay. And, don't get me wrong, I did things for him too. But my narcissistic ex does not know that it's the little things that mean so much. Okay. So our last night together, it was just 1 week before he would marry this person that he had been deceiving for 2 years. Okay, and I told you how he had brought dinner home, and this was all a week before his next marriage. Okay, he brought dinner home, he gave me the red light special. Okay, but the very next day, he called me as soon as I was leaving work to tell me that he wasn't feeling well and that he wanted to just rest for the night. And he promised that we would be together the weekend and hang out like we always did when he wasn't out of town. So, all right, Saturday, it came and went. All right. And I called and the calls and texts went unanswered. But before all this, I have to tell you about this wild goose chase that he sent me on, okay? Which was also in the same week that he was getting ready to get married again, okay? So the car that I had at the time, it needed service, right? And we had made arrangements for me to use his spare car while mine was being repaired. Okay, and still not able to get in contact with him, I decided to go over to his place, and I also wanted to know why he wasn't responding to my calls or texts. Now there is a store on the way to his apartment, and just as I was about to pass it, he was pulling into the store. So I pulled up along beside him and we got out and had a conversation. And I told him that I had been trying to call him and text him, but not getting any response. And you know what he says? Hey, you know what? My family said the same thing, that they're not able to get through, that the calls are just going straight to voicemail, and that it must have been something wrong with his phone. But there was nothing wrong with his phone. It was just an excuse, okay? It was just an excuse. So I reminded him about, me using his spare car. And he tells me, he said, hey, D, you know what? I put that car in the shop because it needs a transmission. That car was working perfectly fine. And he had just had a transmission put in it a year before that, less than a year before that. And because it had stopped on us while we were at a stoplight one day. And so, like I said, he had already had transmission put in it. And so I guess he forgot about that. And like Judge Judy says, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. All right. So he told me to drive to the shop if I didn't believe him. Does that sound familiar? But anyway, I said, okay. And I told him that I would see him later. But he said, no. I'm going to be leaving to go out of town. So I said, okay, here we go with that again. These last minute trips and not giving me any notice. Okay. So I did. I drove over to the auto shop where he said he had the car towed to. And guess what? This place had gone out of business. Yes, it no longer existed. He sent me on a wild goose chase. So I called him and I told him that he was a liar, okay, and that the place didn't exist anymore. And he sounded all surprised, like, what, are you serious? Let me call this man to see where he has towed my car to. No. And then he also said he was going to call me back, but he never did. All right, so he ghosted me just like a coward would do, and a narcissist, to avoid accountability. Okay. And that was the last time that I spoke to my narcissistic ex. All right. And just a couple of days later, I tried to contact him again. And that is when I got the shock of my life. I had information that he had been married again for the fourth time to this woman who went from being his cousin to his ex and now fourth wife. And all this happened during the week before they would get married. Unbelievable. But no, it's not, because that's the type of behavior that you can expect from a narcissist. So anyway, he took advantage of me and used me until he just couldn't use me anymore. Then ghosted me and went on about his life like I never existed. Okay? And that, my friends, is how my toxic, dangerous, narcissistic ex got out of my life. Okay? But, all right, so that's the discard stage of the narcissistic relationship cycle, the third and final stage, all right? But what I want to leave you with is, first, among other things, narcissists are vengeful, okay? And you also see who the weak one really was in this relationship, all right? And then second, when my narcissistic ex or narcissist, when they're not being fed that admiration and validation that they thrive off of, they will seek new supply. Okay? Just like my narcissistic ex did. And then third, narcissists are controlling, okay? And they have to be in control. So my narcissistic ex abuser, he couldn't control me anymore. Not the way that he wanted to. And so one more thing, lastly, you see that he didn't love me because he didn't even love himself. There was no honor, no respect, no self-control, no self-decency, none of that. Okay. So y'all, this is going to end it for this video. And as always, I hope that someone found my video content to be beneficial. And please share, because my narcissistic ex's heinous acts are what narcissists do. And it is important to recognize the behavior. And besides creating this channel to raise awareness, it is also to help others to recognize narcissistic behavior and avoid it and run. Okay, so only if I knew then what I know now. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. Stay tuned, there is more to come. So go ahead and like the video if you like it, comment, subscribe to show your support and to be notified when I post a new video. Okay, there's more to come. Stay tuned. And until next time, good choices and happy thoughts.